Sunrise breaks across the ocean. The coffee's brewing and the day is new. I like to sit right here and watch the morning until the sky turns into a field of blue. What I need is a little downtime in the right place, in the right space. It's gonna take me at least a week to clear my mind. Yeah, I'm gonna need a little downtime. It's a perfect beach day, what don't you think? It's a perfect house day too. And just glad to be here. Yeah, it's warmer than Nashville. It don't really matter what we do. What we need is a little downtime in the right place, in the right space. It's gonna take us at least a week to clear our minds. Yeah, we really need a little downtime. A little downtime.
Hey folks, it is I, Jason Hyatt, with RoundTable Ranch on the CTW TV network. It's now 6:02 because we have 2 minutes of introduction. And you're on RoundTable Ranch. All right, so tonight we have a guest. I don't know if we can really call him a guest, but he is here speaking with us. I see him more often than I probably want to sometimes. And sometimes not so often because he does work all hours of the night, hauling drunk and stupid sick people and people that legitimately got hurt around in a woo-woo bus while trying to patch them and make them not so stupid anymore. So without further ado, I will bring in my daughter's boyfriend, Joshua Norton. So you're not going to see his face because his camera's messed up. So you'll hear his voice, though.
Hello.
Joshua, do you hear us?
Yes.
Haha. All right. So why don't you go tell everybody who you are and what you do, and then we can get down into some nitty-gritty stuff.
Okay, well, I'm Joshua Norton. I'm a 2-year AEMT working in a local county. It's not really slow county or anything like that. It's quite busy, decent population. Been going, working 911 for 2 years now. And yeah, it's the basic gist of it.
Basic gist of it. So what is the average time you spend in the woo-woo bus?
Usually on a shift anywhere from a minimum of 12 and a half hours up to 14, 15, 16 hours, depending on the day and the type of call we catch at the end of shift.
All right. So let's get into some nitty-gritty stuff. Actually, whatever you want to talk about, because we're not going to regulate this to you just telling us bad stuff. I almost lost it there for a second. So I'm going to say this, though. As of now, 19 years ago, we are 4 days into our invasion into Iraq. We have taken Baghdad already. And, yeah, So anybody following along at what goes through my head through the day, that's it. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Um, give us some good, bad, and ugly.
Good, bad, and ugly. Uh, yeah, there's quite a lot over just my first year of loan working 911. A lot of stuff that I saw that a lot of other people didn't actually end up seeing until years and years into the field. Um, the good, the good I'd honestly say would ultimately be my coworkers. You can't really make it through a shift without good coworkers you can get along with, somebody you can rely on and just vent to. There is the occasional good where you get one of those really tough, critical calls and you manage to do everything right and get into the hospital and they pull through. Oh, the bad. Yeah, there's honestly not a whole lot of bad, but when it does happen, it's pretty messed up. A lot of car wrecks. We got a long stretch of the interstate that we work. Lots of just bad car wrecks down that way. A lot of stupid coming down from Macon into the north end of the county.
Well, you're talking about coming down from Macon, but above us is Atlanta,
Yeah,
and you are at the tail end of the stupid corridor on 75.
this is
So,
true. We get a good mix of the people from Atlanta that don't care how they drive and the people from Florida that don't know how to drive.
because those ones that don't know how to drive from Florida usually are from New York and they're transplants.
That is a thing. They have had a lot of people move down from New York.
They know how to
Um,
drive in snow, but not wet.
yeah, they also don't know how to use their windshield wipers and they assume blinkers are the appropriate thing for when it rains.
Yeah, they
I'll
haven't
say
heard. They haven't heard of the slow down and don't turn your blinkers on. Turn your headlights on instead.
that's assuming their headlights work. But
That's
yeah,
just
so
it.
that's the good, the bad, the ugly. Honestly, the ugly side I'd have to say would mostly be people just wanting to bottle everything up. We see a lot of messed up stuff. Bad car wrecks, people with horrible bodily injuries, you know, people that have been shot, stabbed, you name it, assaults. Uh, you know, you there's always the really, really tough ones for a lot of people. You're having to work a cardiac arrest on a child.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, that's really bad. Then the ugly part is that it's trying to get worked out in the career field where we're not bottling it up, that we're not just keeping it in. I will say that a lot of that our supervisors, I love them. They're really pushing hard to try to make us talk about it, not bottle it up, and actually just, you know, at least talk to them. To not just hold it in and just let it fester and make you hate life and hate your job and everything else. That's kind of the reason I want to come on the show. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of your old school paramedics that they were paramedics in the late 90s, 80s, and 70s with the mentality of we don't talk about bad things because that's not what a man does. That's a weak thing to do. Emotions, right?
Yeah.
But
Same thing they tell soldiers.
yeah, but I mean it's not healthy. It's really not. And the bad thing is you got a few younger generations that are trying to pick up these bad habits because they look up to these good medics, but they're keeping the bad habits of no, we don't talk about that, we bottle it up, we don't want to go and talk to people. And I don't have a lot of coworkers that don't want to talk about things, but there are a few, and I genuinely wish they would get help. They go talk to somebody about their some of the bad calls that they've had, and at least try to get in a better state of mind.
Yeah. So it kind of sounds like, as with most professions that have to deal with trauma, you've always got the old timers, the people that have been in the field a lot longer. I see somebody looking at me in the green room like, old timers, what? But he's the people that have been in the career field a lot longer than like the rookies have. Look at him and say, hey, if you go tell these people everything you're experiencing, and they're not going to understand you, and they're going to wonder why you do your job, and they're not going to understand, and that turns people off from talking. I know it did me for years. Like when I came back the first time, like, don't tell your family, they won't understand. They'll look at you like you're a monster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know for the most part that
mm,
I try to avoid talking about these things with my family, and most of the stuff I vent with my parents and my brothers and sister and my siblings on my family is just the stupid calls. The stuff that they're more adapt to hearing. I'm not gonna bring them the horrible stuff. It's too much for them.
you
There's a
say
lot of
that.
really bad stuff that you can end up seeing in the career field over years, and we always try our best to protect our loved ones from it because we
Yeah.
know how it affects us. But I mean, there's just that divide of, do you really be honest with them when they don't seem to understand, or do you just accept their criticisms and just go on with the fact that they won't understand because they haven't really done it like you have or had any experience in it?
So I met Michelle, right? And instead of keeping everything in, and like basically our first date, I told her everything because I wanted it in the front of her mind that this is the person I am, this is what I've gone through, and this is the things that you're going to experience if you're going to be with me. And it was probably the best thing I ever did. And yes, probably some of it didn't sit well. I can't say it scared her, but I can't say it didn't scare her. I don't. She has never said whether it scared her or turned her stomach, but she's always been there. Um, so I've gotten out of the mindset of if they love you and you're your family, you should be able to tell them anything. Um, Now, obviously, there's some things I wouldn't tell my grandmother,
Very understandable.
and there's some things that, while I would like to not tell my mother, she understands more than some people would because she did 27 years in the Air Force and she's heard a lot of the stories, but at least she has kind of the mindset. But I come from a very service based family that has been there and done it. So I really, other than Michelle and Nikki and Haley, I've always been surrounded by people that had at least experienced something like that. And I didn't even want to tell my ex-wife when I came back when I was going through, and her dad was Navy. So it's one of those things where it's in your head that these people don't understand you. They'll never understand you. They'll look at you differently. But as like I said, as I've gotten older, I've realized if they love you, they will at least attempt to understand you, and if they can't understand you, they'll at least support you. So
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, the bad habits are being picked up. And we all pick up bad habits. We all try to avoid them. And, that's one of my bad habits, is not trying to talk to my family and my loved ones about these bad things. And it's just gotten to the point now where, yeah, I finally accepted I probably need to go see someone
yeah,
myself for it. Because not too long ago, another bad call. Same thing, you sit there and try to process it and comprehend it. You try to talk to your coworkers about it. You think you're feeling good about it, but it's still just there in the back of your head.
yeah. There's some things you see that you're not going to be able to shake without. You'll probably never actually shake them completely, but you'll. you'll be able to process them better if there's somebody there that's helping you walk through it. I guess what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't know all the stuff you've seen. You've told me some of it before, but I think you still stay kind of guarded when you're talking here at the house too. So
And, I mean, that's just more of a thing because, like, when I say I've seen a lot of stuff that people don't see until a few years into their career, I mean, like, some of the really, really bad stuff. Like,
yeah,
some people say they've gone 10 years in the career before they came up to a DOA where, they'd been down for a while and there's a dog in the house. You know exactly where that's going.
yeah,
Won't elaborate.
yeah,
Or, you go out and this was actually, this was the first call that was actually tough for me. And this was my third day of FTO riding at my current job. I was working in the north end of the county. It's 7, 8 o'clock. We just finished checking off the truck, and we've been in service for a while. Um, First call of shift. A what was it? 3-month-old, 4-month-old. They were still trying to get it right with the dispatch notes. It was a 4-month-old that we got sent out to unresponsive, not breathing. And I mean, this is only my third day actually working the road doing 911, and that's pretty rough. Up until that day, it was mostly, go help grandma up. She's got some pain. Let's take her to the hospital.
yeah,
Your more basic, just take care of people, get them to a doctor so they can get things taken care of so it doesn't progress worse. But this is right off the rip, going straight into a pediatric code, and that it still sits with me.
yeah. I don't know how you ever get anything involving kids out of your head. It gets worse when you have kids.
I,
Um,
I would say that's my only current saving grace at the moment.
yeah,
We don't have children, but I have nephews and nieces, or nephews and a niece, and just thinking about that possibly being them, that still comes close to home.
can definitely understand that. I'm not. I don't talk about some things very much. Like there's things that happened in my career that I don't like to talk about because it hurts me still. And when it involves children, it made it 10 times worse. Like I blatantly refused to celebrate my daughter Ashley's birthday on her birthday for 8 years. I wanted to find it. I decided to celebrate it on the day I found out, which is April 11th, not on April 3rd. And it did some pretty bad damage to her psyche growing up, maybe still. But something happened the day she was born that I don't want to ever think about. And celebrating her birthday on her birthday always brought it back up. So
Yeah.
I I eventually moved through it and celebrated her birthday on April 3rd, but it's still a rough day, no matter how you look at it. I mean, it's one of my best friend's birthday, it's my daughter's birthday, but it's also the day that this event took place, and I don't like thinking about it because to me it was an unconscionable act that could not be avoided, but at the same time, it happened, and I'm not going to go too much further into it on the air
Yeah.
because it does hurt. So, but that's what they call the ladies at the Warriors Ranch would call moral injury, which is part of PTSD, and it's when something that has happened goes against your morals, no matter how bad it is, it injures your morals, no
Yeah.
matter what the circumstances are. You in your brain and in your soul cannot make it not immoral. even though it might have been the right thing to do at the time. So,
Yeah, now that you bring up the PTSD, that actually is I'm usually on the EMS subreddit a lot, looking over stories and medical studies and topics within the career field across the whole world. And yeah, not too long ago, I actually came across a discussion about PTSD versus burnout and the general consensus of the thousands of people on there. And I even sat there and thought about it myself after the recent vacation I took
mhm.
and how quickly it went away being rested and relaxed. A lot of people seem to associate the burnout they have in the career field is just burnout. They don't sit there and think that it's something worse like PTSD, which has a lot of the same effects on you.
That's true. Burnout, I don't know. Um, I can't say burnout's not an emotion or not a mental or emotional stagnation, but it is. It can physically do things to you, but I don't think burnout and PTSD are the same thing. Burnout is you take a few days of rest and you feel better about it, which too much burnout probably can lead to PTSD, but it's one of those things where you take a vacation and you can clear your head of all the crap and it doesn't keep coming back and bite you. That would be
Hmm.
burnout. PTSD is it doesn't matter what you do, it's stuck in your skull, it's stuck in your soul, and you can't get away from it no matter what you do. Drink more, drink less, do dumb things. That's stuck with you. Why they call it a disorder, I have no idea, and I think they revised it to PTS now, but or extreme anxiety disorder, or whatever they're trying to call it to make it less or more politically correct. I don't know,
I
but
think it's more of the trying to get rid of the stigma behind it because you think disorder, nobody wants to accept that they're broken.
yeah,
But unfortunately, the first step to getting help is accepting that you're broken.
that's true. I mean, when I was first diagnosed with PTSD, I was in South Korea, and my diagnosis came back PTSD with you know violent tendencies. But then come to find out, pretty much everybody with that they diagnosed PTSD in 0405, they put the violent tendencies at the end because they really didn't know what they were looking at. A lot of us were having flashbacks, and those flashbacks would be sort of violent if somebody touched us. So they put violent tendencies on the end of it. Um, by the time I retired and they revised everything, they removed that violent tendencies moniker because they, I guess, years of research and dealing with people with PTSD, they have figured out that we're not all violent. We don't want to be violent. It's not something that's just ingrained into us as being violent. So, but it does
Eh,
make things difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think you're dealing with the PTSD. The violent tendency would probably just come from the fight or flight response
Yeah.
being triggered and always being just on edge.
Hmm.
And kind of the same aspect within EMS. And I'm sure fire department, police department, even former military. You can be. I know sometimes I'll be dead asleep and I think I hear tones and I wake up wondering what's going on, but I'm at home.
Hmm. There's times at night where I lay down at night and I have to tell myself I am home and I am safe. Um, sounds weird, but you close your eyes for a half a second and you start seeing things you don't want to see, and you wake up, you wake yourself back up and say, "Wait a second, I'm at home and I'm safe," and you don't have to. Maybe for me it works a little better, but at least I don't see that stuff as soon as I close my eyes when I
Yeah.
do that. I don't have to do it every night, but there's definitely nights where I open my eyes and I look at the ceiling fan and I go, "I'm home and I'm safe," and things start looking a little better for me when I close my eyes again. So it's just a trick that I use. I figured out it works a little bit. And of course, having a nightmare detection dog works pretty well too. He's laying at my feet. So, but of course, he tag teams with Wyatt.
Yeah.
Oh, bud, you gonna come get on TV? Huh? Come here. Up, 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 up. See, Yona's gonna make an appearance.
Uh, we have a third guest.
Yes, I do. But he's always in the room when I do these shows. So, but I mean, I talk about the use of service dogs and now equine therapy or equine therapy horses on every show and talk about the benefits of them. But until you experience that, and you've got Karama, I mean, Nikki's
Yeah.
got Karama, but you've got Karama. I'm sure he works you on rough nights or rough days when you come home. He probably won't leave you alone. He knows something's going on.
Yeah. Actually, recently when Nikki went to Virginia, the night before she had left, there was a pretty bad car wreck on the main stretch of road.
Hmm.
Um, we got there, and it's one of those really just gut wrenching. What can you do? You can't do anything in your training right now because the car was fully engulfed in flames.
Yeah.
We're there with law enforcement. Fire department hadn't shown up yet, but you can see them down the stretch of road going as fast as they can to get to the scene. But it was just, I mean, you can't do anything. I mean, yeah, you got fire extinguishers, but that's really only for something like, a trash can on fire.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I came home and I I didn't want to expose Sneaky to that. Not right there and then. And no, yeah, Karama sat there and stayed with me. He kept bringing the ball over, trying to make me play with him, and we went outside and threw the ball around and started feeling a little better.
Yeah. For the love of dog, man will never understand. And that's just how I look at it now. So dogs will definitely help. And so will horses, and so will talking. The first time you talk about things with somebody, you feel like absolute crap. I'm not gonna lie about it.
Hmm.
You will feel like absolute trash. Like, why did I dredge all that up? Now I've got to relive all of it. But the more you talk, the more you open up about things, the better you deal with it and the better you start feeling about things. There are still going to be things out there that you cannot reconcile within yourself.
Yeah,
Um, but talking about it will help you at least accept the fact that that's the way it is. Sounds kind of funny, but we tell you to talk about it and say, listen, we know it's going to hurt the first couple times, but it will get better. Trust me. It's like anything in life. But you went through all of this EMT 911 calls during COVID, right?
yeah. It was a giant headache, a massive headache. Um, I started out as day shift in the middle of summer with COVID protocols. I can't tell you how much it double sucked. Well, you can definitely relate because you were out there in Afghanistan.
Iraq.
Oh, yeah, Iraq. Sorry,
I never
Iraq.
went to the stand.
Ah. But you're out there in Iraq with. I'm sure you guys had it's mop gear, right?
Oh, yeah. We rolled across the border in Mach 2. That's everything but your mask and gloves on.
Yeah, so we're in Tyvek suits in the heat of summer in the middle of the day with with an N95 on, with goggles, with a face shield, with the gloves on, with boot covers. It sucked.
Yeah.
It sucked so much. I kind of felt bad one day. We got called out for a CPR in progress. This was one of the good calls. The fire department's out there. They're doing their best CPR possible in the middle of this yard in their full Tyvek kitted up and everything. And we walk over, and the medic I was working with asked him, "Hey, what you guys doing?" He didn't have a pulse. He went unresponsive. We started CPR. She stops him. He's got a bounding carotid pulse. You can see through his skin.
Mm.
Check his pupils. It was an overdose, easily corrected. But they've been out there for 3 rounds of CPR in the middle of the sun, in the middle of the day, in full Tyvek, kitted up to try to not get COVID, and they're just drenched in sweat.
Yeah, but they probably can't feel the pulse because they have all this
Yep.
gear on, and they're
Yeah, and I
probably
noticed.
foggy and probably can't see it either.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
I noticed with the supply shortages we were dealing with in the medical field, some of the gloves we would get in would be like, yeah, they're medical grade, but their thickness is more like what you would use if you are cleaning and rebuilding an engine. Like, you put them on and you can't feel anything through the fingertips at all.
So the gloves I use when I'm cleaning a deer or a pig,
Yes,
yeah, those real
yes,
thick
they're
ones.
they're
If I nick them
they're
with my
phys-
knife, I don't cut through.
yeah, they're physically thick enough you can sit there and feel them, and it's at least 2 millimeters of rubber.
Hmm. Yeah, the good ones.
Not
If
so
you're
good for,
handling chemicals and nasty
yeah,
blood, yeah,
not the greatest for patient care when you need to start an IV or feel for a pulse or anything like
yeah,
that.
probably not. So, oh my goodness, yeah, we kind of felt bad for you, but not during the whole COVID thing. Um, like I said,
Bad
we feel
timing.
bad, but we did not feel bad at the same time because we're like, he's young, he can handle it.
Well, yeah, I mean, technically I did. Um, I was still doing clinicals late 2019. They were still talking about COVID being over in China,
Yeah.
in Wuhan. And I did a clinical, and I came home, and like a few days later, I was sick as a dog. And it's funny because all the symptoms I got were all symptoms of COVID. I went to go get like figured out what's going on with me, and they're like, "Well, we think it's the flu. Here, take this." The test
Mhm.
was inconclusive, and
Yeah.
I'm sick as a dog for a week straight, coughing. It feels like razor blades anytime I would breathe. I got lucky though. I couldn't sleep. I was uncomfortable to sleep.
Yeah.
So what did I do to try to get comfortable? I changed positions. I laid on my chest.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like months later in the pandemic they found that would prevent people from getting intubated.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we went to my grandfather's funeral January 2020 before COVID hit the United States. And we came back, and Michelle was as sick as a dog. So was my grandmother, but we must have shook 3,000 hands at my grandfather's funeral. And I got a little sick. He got a little fever, a little cough, and it went away. But Michelle was like tested negative for pneumonia and tested negative for the flu. Still sick as a dog that January. And then she got better, remarkably, just got better. And then, she's had it, we're guessing, 3 or 4 times, got the vaccination, and I've gotten negative tests from day one. And we don't know. But still, kind of felt bad for you. I was like, this would have thrown me into a flashback if I'd been EMT or a firefighter or even law enforcement having to wear all that crap
Hmm.
from the 2 times we had to go full on mop, mask, gloves, everything, because they're talking about blowing up trucks that are full of chemicals. So, yeah, it would have been rough. So,
Yeah.
and it being, 104 degrees outside would have probably made it worse. I don't think there's any deodorant in the
Yeah.
world that's strong enough to save you from that.
Yeah. We stayed a little bit away from the firefighters on that call. It's a little strong.
Yeah, a little pungent out there. Yeah. I mean, most of the people that watch this show will understand the term famunda. And when you're that hot in gear that does not breathe, everything stinks. So just that alone would be horrible.
Yeah.
So, all right, for y'all out there in the world of watching this on whatever platform, drop us a comment. Got any questions to ask? Anything, topics you want to bring up? Drop it in the comments. We'll see it. We'll be able to answer it from live on the show, and we'll go from there. But right now, we still have Joshua Norton on, but we're going to take a quick 30-second break, clear our throats. So we'll see you in a few seconds. All right, we are back. You are still watching Roundtable Ranch on the CTW TV network. I am still Jason Hyatt, and we still have Joshua Uwa Norton on. It's because I'm lazy, and everybody else calls him Josh. I decided to call him Uwa instead. There's only 2 letters instead of 4. See, it takes a lot less effort. So,
Minimum effort, right? Just like government work.
minimum effort. It's the military way. Okay? It really is. It's always going to be the military way. Hey, how do we get in that building? Well, we can launch a missile at it. It's the least effort.
1 brick of C4, 2 brick of C4.
There you go. So we do things that take the least amount of effort on our part. So anyway, so I got before the break we were talking about the COVID crap, but now we're going to talk about something a little more faith in humanity segment, if we have any faith in humanity, because with all the stuff that most of us have seen, it's hard to have any faith in humanity. But there has to be one thing that you have seen, well, on the woo-woo bus that would restore at least some of your faith in humanity.
Yes. Oh, okay. Let's see here. It's kind of a tough one. I mean, there have been a few cases, but they were fewer and far in between. And We're kind of cut out by the other stuff on the job.
Yeah,
Uh, I'd probably have to say, oh man,
because the only way we're going to get through all this stuff is if we see the good once in a while. You got to
yeah,
see something good. Whether it's somebody gave you a bottle of water because you looked like you were dying out there, something has to give you something.
okay, okay. Um, the okay, in that sense, the good is just, normally amongst our fellow brothers and sisters of first responders, EMS is kind of the redheaded stepchild. Everybody knows it.
Yeah,
Police and fire, they get all the funding. Unless EMS is part of the fire department, we're the redheaded stepchild.
yeah,
We're the ones coming into the call missing a sock because the Circle K was out of toilet paper. It's a sad reality. People think that we make a lot of money in this career. Not really. Most of the people making money at my place of employment are also firefighters, and that's where they make their primary source of income.
yeah,
But with this whole pandemic stuff, there's been a much more massive shift with the general population looking at EMS. Excuse me, looking at EMS as a is what we are, is going out there helping people, and they're thanking us more. It would happen before. Thank you for your service. That's always an interesting moment because how do you really respond to that?
I ask myself that every day. How do you respond to that? It's hard for me because I always say it was my pleasure, um, because it was. So
My response is usually, eh, thank you. I appreciate you doing that, but it's not a big deal. I
yeah,
signed up for it. I chose it. And yeah, that's one of those things where you sit there and think about too.
yeah. I understand that 100%. It gives you. It gives you. It is nice to be recognized. It is nice that people understand that you did something for somebody else, whether it was them or their family or not even somebody they directly know, but that you put on a
Hmm.
uniform and you serve in some way. But it really kind of like strikes a check mark in your heart like, why are they thanking me? This is my job. This is what I was called to do. So it's hard to do.
Yeah.
So I can understand that one. All right. So with all the good of, your tiny bits of faith in humanity, name one thing, one story, and it doesn't have to be nitty gritty, gnarly, or anything like that,
Hmm.
that demonstrates exactly what would destroy your faith in humanity. What has? What has helped with your downfall of why do I do this every day in my job and makes you not want to wake up and do it anymore?
I got the perfect thing. Everybody in the medical field, the firefighting field, knows exactly what I'm about to talk about. The person that calls the ambulance to go to the hospital because they have had some minor injury weeks ago, and now they assume they need to go to the hospital by ambulance when their front yard has 5 working vehicles and they have 5 other people in the house that can drive them. The I stubbed my toe, it hurts so bad. You called us for difficulty breathing. Yeah, I'm having difficulty breathing. You're talking just fine. You're smoking a cigarette.
Those are the people who are just like, no, no, you're not getting in my truck and leave. But you can't do that.
I, it's a bad thing to say I wish, but I genuinely wish I could tell them that they would probably get better results going by a car for what they called us for. Legally, I cannot say that. It's kind of stupid. At the same time, lawyers and people with what they're assuming burnout, but PTSD affecting their decision making also has resulted in us having the laws that regulate this stuff, and it still slips through.
Yeah,
People still just let their issues affect patient care, and that was one of the things that was hammered into me in school. If you lose that gut feeling of, did I miss something with this patient? Did I forget something? And that feeling goes away and you stop caring. You're just like, oh, this is just a stub toe. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Oh, he's got chest pain. Oh, he's just lying. No, the bare minimum is you assume that he's not lying. Even if you've seen him 20 times in the past month, you go ahead and assume he's not lying, do the necessary stuff to confirm he's not dying. Because if he dies on your watch, hey, guess what? You get shiny new bracelets and have to explain in front of a judge and a jury why you were being a scumbag.
Yeah. I mean, I felt really bad, really, really bad that I had to call for an ambulance when that guy ran over my foot in the front yard.
Ah, don't feel bad about that. That's
I, but I,
middle totem pole.
yeah, but I felt bad because I was like, these guys have much worse problems to deal with than mine. But Michelle had just had surgery on both her wrists and couldn't drive. I sure as heck couldn't drive when a guy just ran over my foot. You know, but it's like I've got to get to the hospital, and there's
Hmm.
no way I'm going to get there without this happening. Well, I felt bad. Like, I couldn't even crack jokes in the back of the ambulance. And if everybody knows, when I'm in pain, I tell a lot of jokes. Because the more I joke, the better I feel, and the more I can block the pain, which drives EMTs and nurses absolutely batty.
Oh,
What's
what
your
are you
pain
talking
level?
about? We all have the same sick, twisted sense of humor. Why do you think we all laugh at each other's jokes?
Well, it's not that. Like, when I went in for the kidney stone not too long ago, the lady's like, "What's your pain level?" I said, "Well, it's kind of beyond 10." And she's like, "How is that? You're in here cracking jokes." And then I go to get out of the wheelchair to get on a CT scanner and puke all over the place. She's like, "Yep, you're a 10."
That comes from the jaded part of the people. Like I said before, oh, I stubbed my toe a week ago. The pain's a 10 out of 10. I'm having difficulty breathing and chest pain. They're just trying to go to the hospital to
Yeah.
do I don't even know what.
Yeah. I mean, your job is exasperated by the fact that people can't just go to the local drugstore and get their pain meds anymore. And
Yeah.
drugstore, I mean, the chop shop car lot on the corner lot. Um,
I don't know. We've been picking up quite a few people that have taken pain medication, air quotes,
yeah, air quotes, pain
and
medication.
we're having to go pick them up off the ground because they're now blue in the face and can't breathe on their own.
That's because somebody's added fentanyl to that illegal stuff that they're taking.
Fentanyl, morphine, any kind of narcotic, who knows?
Yeah, they're just throwing it all
Narcan
together
works
to
on
make
all
a
of them.
pill form for somebody,
Yeah.
or you know, they're saying it's pain meds, but really it's methamphetamines because that's huge here. So you can't go anywhere without smelling death
Yeah.
on the side of the road.
Yeah. It's funny. We went out to one call and this lady said she couldn't walk, but she was outside on the porch in a office chair. She said that she was feeling bad, her chest hurt, and she's having difficulty breathing because she just smoked some dope.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
That'll do it. I mean, I'm not going to be the guy that sits here and says all drugs are bad.
Oh no, no, no.
I have personal friends, and I'm not going to mention them by name because it's still illegal where they live, that swear by a steady dose of THCs and magic mushrooms have helped them more with their bipolar anxiety, bipolar disorder, PTSD, and other mental illnesses than any of the medications the VA or any hospital has ever put them on. And one guy, since we've seen this transformation of him going off the legal narcotics and the legal mental drugs and prescribing to his mild doses of magic mushrooms and edibles, his attitude and his outlook on life have turned 180 degrees. Whereas before we were worried about him, stringing himself up from the rafters.
Hmm.
Now he is much more the person that we all knew and loved before. And I didn't know him before he got injured in the army. I didn't know him until much later on, but even 5 years ago when we started talking, he wasn't as bad as he was 3 years ago, where he was just narcoed out of his mind, an alcoholic beyond belief, and couldn't function. And that we were seriously thinking we're just going to end up finding him strung up from the rafters in his house.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to sit here and say all drugs are bad, but I believe that the medication or the drugs that these people are taking on their own, if they are designed in a lab, probably aren't going to do anything for them.
Oh, absolutely not. Like with antidepressants, you look at every antidepressant on the market, one of the one major side effect that every single one of them has, depression. This is, I thought this was supposed to solve depression. Why is it going to cause depression?
Yeah,
Because it's a synthesized chemical meant to treat it. But the problem is that's why there's multiple on the market, because not every synthetic drug works on people the same way.
yeah.
Like,
I don't smoke weed. One, because my wife's a teacher and she would lose her
hmm
license. Two, I already have paranoia.
hmm
I don't want to chance it. I like my firearms a little too much, but I I wouldn't do that to my family and myself, and that's not something I want to try because I already have that large balloon of paranoia. There's
hmm
always, something in the back of my head. And without anything on, any type of medication, I do just fine at dealing with it. Sometimes I rely more on my dog to help me through things than other times. But I wouldn't do that to myself. But other people seem to don't get the paranoia from it. I just know that when I was a kid and being stupid and smoking a lot of weird things, peyote and
Hopefully not Parmesan cheese.
no, but I did try some peyote. I tried some mescaline root. I tried acid. I tried shrooms. I tried all that when I was a kid. And things that did not work for me was marijuana at all. THC was bad for my brain. It made me paranoid at 17. Why would I try to do it when I'm 32 and up?
hmm
When I have PTSD that makes me paranoid already. But for some guys, that stuff is working miracles. And you'll never find me saying, don't legalize this because, it's the devil's root or devil's lettuce. But for some people, it can be a lifesaver. And I
Yeah.
just know for me, it won't work. But I don't know. The government experienced with PCP at one point. So,
I mean, they found quite a few, or what the MK Ultra test the CIA did that
yeah.
did not do air quotes. Then they found that it had a lot of effects on people, and I'm pretty sure they threw out any of the beneficial effects because it didn't go with mind control.
Yeah. I mean, we have advancements in medications, but we have advancements that have gone too far. And sometimes I think we need to go back to Native American ways as far as some of the medications that we're using. If we just made THC a medicine instead of a drug, maybe it would be less stigmatized. I don't know. Maybe you'd get less calls from people being stupid with stuff too.
I don't see that happening because a lot of the issues I've noticed now when it comes to any CBD, THC with like the edibles going on, I would love to see a study on this because I don't have any empirical data on it or anything like that, but like from my own experience, I've noticed a lot of people that are taking these edibles to try to calm down or doing the CBD oils or gummies or whatever, try to calm down, that when they have like a really bad anxiety disorder, it just, like you said with you, it just flips the switch and now they're worse.
Yeah,
And we're going out there to go help them because they're having a anxiety attack, panic attack, and they're breathing at 40 times a minute, about to pass out.
yeah. I mean, there is that. I think CBD is snake oil. I really do. I think it's not snake oil. I think it is a mental effect, as in like, um, crap. I can't think of the word. I'm trying to think of here. And it's all in your head.
It's a sugar pill.
Yeah, they're telling you this is going to work. This is going to work. This is going to work. So you take it for a while and it works. But I really think it's all in your head. I
I,
can't say I don't have any data supporting it, but
yes.
honestly, the only medicinal value of marijuana is in the THC, and that's been proven through the years. So if you take the THC out of CBD, what are you left with? Something to cook with?
I think, again, I don't have the empirical data either or anything like that, but I know one thing that they were touting the CBD good for was joint pain. It's having like,
Yeah,
don't take me to, to court on this, don't quote me on this, but I think if I remember correctly, it was some kind of like it helped with like an anti-inflammatory response on joint pain and stuff like that.
yeah. But if they break it down chemically, there's nothing in it that should help your joints.
Yeah,
And now they got that Delta 8, CBD Delta 8.
that's what everybody's having the anxiety attacks on, the Delta 8.
So they add in some chemicals into this supposedly holistic way of healing and expect it not to cause a problem.
Anything to make the cost of production cheaper to maximize profits.
It's like going to get spice. Spice is synthetic THC. It was legal for a while, but it also caused people to act like zombies.
It's quite interesting to watch somebody on Spice. It's a
Oh,
very, very accurate representation. They are in a catatonic state where they stare at the wall, don't really react. They move about as slow as the zombies from like the old school George A. Romero movies.
yeah. I
And they're
mean,
just kind of there,
and
zoned
then you
out.
had the bath salts. I don't know what the heck that was, but
Oh
synthetic,
God.
whatever. And those
I'm
people
glad
were fighting people.
I'm glad I was not in this career field when that happened at the time. I don't know how I would have handled that. I probably would have said, "I'm going home. Have a nice day. I don't do zombies. Sorry."
You'd be walking around with a crossbow on your back, going, "I'm just going to start shooting these guys in the head." My God, it's happening.
Yep, there goes the medical license.
I mean, seriously, what would you do? How would you react to somebody trying to bite you, trying to
Um,
legitimately eat you as you're trying to save their lives?
so within my company protocol within the state of Georgia, luckily my company says they stand by Georgia's stand your ground law. And Georgia has stated that if we are in immediate bodily harm as first responders, the do no harm is kind of thrown out the window.
Yeah,
So self-defense.
yeah,
Um, Usually a lot of fist fights, from what everybody else that's worked here longer than I have has told me. A lot of fist fights to make sure you get to go home at night. And then the sound of everybody going quiet as the emergency button is pressed on the radio and everybody listens in to the sound of punches landing and screaming and yelling, and then you hear the call for the law enforcement.
I mean, I couldn't imagine being an EMT at around a military installation because this happened by Fort Stewart while I was still active duty, and getting a call that the patient is trying to rip off the EMT's face. Like he was legitimately grabbing and trying to bite this dude's face.
I know zombies are very unlikely, but everybody has those daydreams, and I've come to accept I am in the worst career field for such an outbreak to happen. I am the first one to die when I thought I'd be like, to survive a few months. No, I am the first one to die.
Yeah, you're in the back of the Woo bus with the crazies, man.
Yeah.
Thank God you can strap them down.
I have to ask a doctor for permission first.
If they're trying to eat your face, strap them down.
If they're trying to eat my face, they can have the ambulance. I'll walk home.
All right. Well, this was episode three, not two, three, of Roundtable Ranch with Joshua Norton at AEMT here locally. If y'all heard us talk, you know exactly where we're at, but we're not going to announce it again. You can go back and watch it again. See, I'm going to try to boost our viewership there.
There you go.
So, Thanks for joining us, Josh. We are at 1 hour
Anytime.
8 seconds. It is time for dinner and loading the motorcycles in the trailer and to get out of here. So, thanks for joining us.
It's
We
been a
have a show
pleasure.
at 8 o'clock with Dan Meadows. And next week, TSR is back on the air on Monday at 6 o'clock. And then Backyard Prepversity on Tuesday. And then, of course, Roundtable Ranch on Wednesday. See you then. Y'all have a good night.